नमस्कार दोस्तों, क्या हमारे देश में डेमोक्रेसी खत्म हो चुकी है? ये एक बड़ा सीरियस सवाल है। तो एक बात तो पक्की है कि सोशल मीडिया पर भी लोगों की आवाज बंद करने की पूरी तरीके से कोशिश करी जा रही है। और जब मेरी आवाज फाइनली पूरी तरीके से बंद हो जाएगी, तब क्या जवाब दोगे? लेकिन आज कौन बचाएगा देश को? मीडिया को खरीदा जा चुका है, हर इंस्टीट्यूशन कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो चुका है, ऑपोजिशन लीडर्स का अरेस्ट किया जा चुका है। बचा कौन? बचे हम लोग, देश के लोग, वी द पीपल ऑफ इंडिया। हम हैं आखिरी उम्मीद।
My choice of content was based on what I felt was lacking in the Indian mainstream media. There was a big empty space there waiting to be filled in.
इनकलाब जिंदाबाद। जय हिंद, जय हिंद, धन्यवाद और जय हिंद।
Hi, I'm Isabel Young. I'm an international correspondent with CNN, and I'm really happy to be joined by Dhruv, I'm going to say this right, Dhruv Rathee.
Yeah, correct.
Who, as we saw there, has this army of very fervent followers online, as well as, I think it's fair to say, a number of haters. 28 million subscribers, I last saw, over 28 million subscribers on YouTube.
Yes. That was quite an intro, I must say.
It's all fair, though. It's all true. 28 million, that's enough to make a lot of people here very, very jealous. What's your secret?
I see primarily myself, I'm more of a YouTube educator and a content creator more than a journalist, I would say. So it's not good to compare me with a legacy media and journalists in that sense. Because many of my videos were very opinionated, and I don't shy down when expressing my opinions on something.
Mm-hmm. I want to get into that and what the difference between an educator and a journalist is in a bit, but I think we should probably start on the big news today, which is likely to become an even bigger story, which is obviously Kashmir. 2 weeks ago, 26 innocent civilians, for those who haven't been following the story, were killed by militants in Kashmir. Just last night, India responded with strikes of their own. Dozens of people we've heard have been killed already. From what you're hearing, I mean, how do you see this playing out? Where do you see it going?
I think India had to retaliate because you see the history of how these terrorist attacks have happened and how involved Pakistan is in these things. And it's not just about India, that even Osama bin Laden was being harbored in Pakistan before. So I feel that India had to retaliate in some way or other, and now they have retaliated by attacking 9 different terrorist sites. And one of the terrorists' family members were killed, who is a United Nations designated terrorist himself. So I feel like this has united India in many ways.
1 रुपया है तो सिंगल क्यों हो? वायबली ऐप पर सिर्फ 1 रुपए में खास कनेक्शंस बना सकते हो और उनसे ढेर सारी बातें भी कर
This retaliation.
India's been careful to say that this is not inflammatory.
Exactly.
That it's focused, targeted strikes. But I mean, what do you think the likelihood is of this turning out into all-out war?
I would say low likelihood, considering that these things have happened in the past also.
It was a different world in the past, right?
I mean, past as in like just 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Also, these things happened. Like constantly, there's tension between India and Pakistan like this, because constantly there's like infiltration happening and terrorist attacks. Like, I think the Western media only reported on this recent attack, which was on a larger scale. But if you see on a smaller scale, it has been happening, I think, almost on an yearly basis in Kashmir.
I mean, Kashmir is obviously a bit of a no-brainer story, you know, big story, big consequences, international reach. But how, in general, do you decide what stories it is that you want to be covering, particularly from outside of India, right?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I'm just one person. I don't have the resources to, talk about everything. And I can only make like 6, 7, maximum 8 videos in a month. So I basically, whenever some news breaks out or whenever I feel passionate about a topic, I try to give it a rating on a 5-point, 6-point scale. There's different categories. Like one category is how passionate do I feel about this topic. Second is like how helpful do I think this will be for my audience. Third is it adhering to my values? Fourth is this being covered enough in the mainstream media, or is there some lacking, So I give it a rating out of 10 in all these 4, 5, 6 different points, and I add up the numbers to see, okay, this topic is something I should maybe pick up for this month, and this is something I should ignore.
I love that. That was such a mathematical answer.
Yeah.
I should really do that. One video that I think put you on the map for a lot of international viewers outside of India was a video that you posted, made last year, on is India becoming a dictatorship? And I think we actually have a clip of that we might want to see.
जनता से प्रोटेस्ट करने का अधिकार ही छीन लेना, और अगर कोई प्रोटेस्ट करे तो उनका टीयर गैस और रबर बुलेट से स्वागत करना, इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड्स का इस्तेमाल करना अपनी सारी फंडिंग छुपाने के लिए, और अगर कोई ऑपोजिशन का कैंडिडेट इलेक्शन जीत भी जाए तो सीधा सीधा इलेक्शन फ्रॉड करके खुद को जिता लेना। मैं प्रधानमंत्री मोदी से कहना चाहूंगा, थोड़ी मर्यादा रखिए।
Very well edited. I love it. I mean, obviously, since that video, Modi has won his re-election without his parliamentary majority. I mean, as you see it, I mean, has Modi's, in your view, and I have to be very careful here because who knows if I might go to India again, in your view, rise to authoritarianism increased, or do you think that's been curtailed at all by recent events?
I mean, after these election results, I feel like to some extent it has been curtailed. And in some ways, things have gotten better. In other ways, not so much. But definitely the points that I raised in this video, thankfully, the Supreme Court of India and many different high courts also have taken a stand for independence and have not bowed down to the government that much in recent times. And they've showed themselves as, an independent pillar of democracy. So in this video clip, I had shown that how there was this video proof of an election fraud happening. And thankfully, the court took action against that guy when that happened. Many opposition leaders were jailed, but now they have been released. So I feel like it did make a difference that Modi did not come back with full majority.
Relatively positive response. I'm surprised. I guess one thing that might be a controversial question given the audience and where we are, but what I'm curious about is, where do you see yourself in this landscape of media, and particularly, obviously, legacy media? I mean, is legacy media dying? Are YouTubers the next response to that? How do you see all that playing out?
I mean, it's hard to say how the things are in the West, but I feel like in India, the legacy media is dying because most of them are not profitable or sustainable by themselves. I think unlike the BBC or other news organizations here, they're not state-funded, but they earn their money through government sponsorships. Like government may pay them money to have some advertisements on their channels, which are promoting some government schemes or something. So what the government does is use that as a weapon to control them. They're like, okay, if you don't speak in our favor, we will just hold back these advertisements, and that is really damaging their financial situation. That's what they did with many of the news channels in the past. And I feel like this is the number one reason why the legacy media is dying in India.
If that's true, though, I mean, legacy media dying in India and people like yourself being the answer, I mean, you have more followers on YouTube than Modi himself. What does that mean for the future of democracy? What does that mean for the future of journalism? Because you yourself don't label yourself a journalist, right? You call yourself an educator.
हाय, मैं हूँ सिया, स्पीक एक्स की पर्सनल इंग्लिश एआई टीचर। मैं
But there are more people. There are journalists who used to work in legacy media, but now have shifted to YouTube because it gives them more independence. It gives them, it helps them break away from this financial model of being dependent on government ads. Mm-hmm. And there are clear-cut examples of journalists like Ravish Kumar or Abhisar Sharma who used to work in the legacy media, but now are doing it independently on YouTube. So it's really YouTube is really turning out to be quite a platform for, the fourth pillar in India.
Yeah. I was reading a study recently that was saying that more Indians trust and get their news from YouTube versus mainstream media.
Yeah.
It's one thing that slightly keeps me up at night when I think of, decline of legacy media, rise of YouTubers, people getting their news from social media, is just that these algorithms do encourage opinion over fact, more and more extreme thought and opinion. Is that something that you think about, and how do you kind of think of your responsibility to that?
That is definitely a concern. I feel like, in fact, despite having such a large social media following, I would openly say that social